Hi guys, today we covered a very interesting, or rather we are covering a very interesting topic, artificial intelligence, machine learning, which has been the talk of the year so far. We discussed with Rufus, of course, the changes in leadership in the industry, developments, the commercialization aspect, as we also transitioned into another subset of the fintech sector that will be Bitcoin and the crypto leadership crisis. We covered what has been happening, what to expect in terms of you as an investor or participant in that space. Hopefully you learn one or two things and enjoy the pod. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying your afternoon or day as it is. Welcome to another episode of Bullish Banter. As usual, I'm joined by Rufus.
Hi, Jesse. How are you doing?
Yeah, we thank the Lord.
Yeah.
The year is almost ending. Quite an interesting week, to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see how the year ends. I think that is how I'm looking at everything.
Yeah, it seems like from today, being the 22nd of November, we have less than 40 days to the end of the year.
So you have counted?
Yes. Of course, in terms of trading, it's way less.
Yeah, okay. I think for the first time, I'll be following the market all the way to the tail end of the year, just to see where the indices will close.
Yeah.
Like you said, for context purposes, we are recording on the week where we have had one of the biggest sagas in the American tech and Silicon Valley space. It's more like a soap opera. You leave a company, or rather you get fired, you move to the financier.
Yeah.
The financier fires the firee and then rehires you to do your job, which he pays you.
Yeah, I think there's only one guy in Kenya who has that kind of power. They get fired on Friday, on Monday they have another job.
And this is a higher comp.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
We are talking about OpenAI, by the way, where Sam Altman, the current new CEO as of 22nd of November, was excommunicated on Friday. Over the weekend, there was a lot of, let's say, miscommunication or non-communication between the board executives and the CEO himself. And when he left, a company worth $100 billion, based on their last funding round, had almost 700 employees, demanded that if the CEO is not reinstated, they leave and join the financier, which is Microsoft, and which they went again and get hired. So it was quite revelating because I think at some point ChatGPT was not functioning, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's been quite disruption on ChatGPT.
Yes.
So to bring the conversation home, we're basically talking about the current developments in the AI sector. Of course, we'll try to dissolve the saga that was happening over the weekend. So in this case, OpenAI is the company that develops the ChatGPT platform. They have other products, including Dell-E and so on. So in this case, they have been in this AI race where every company that is involved in trying to develop their own AI, get as much data as they can, make it as intelligent as they can, it has created this global race where ChatGPT has been top or above other players in the market. And of course, they had the fastest growing app in history.
Yeah.
So in this case, when we saw the board firing the company founder, it was quite some big news in the industry, and it has been the talk of town all week.
You find it interesting that after they threatened to resign, most of the companies using ChatGPT or other OpenAI products were very eager to, offer the same or even double the compensation package they were getting to get them on. So this would include Salesforce, X with the Twitter trying to create their own Grok. It was very interesting. It seems like they have the best talent given the amount of effort they have put in on ChatGPT. As I was sort of preparing or of trying to understand what is happening in the rest, because when I took it back. AI is not really something new. I think it has started since the era of Alan Turing in the 1950s. So with machine learning, how to, or rather, trying to accomplish what humans can do. During the 2000.com bubble, there was a race to have search engines and such, tools. So most startups were getting into that. And until 2004, when Google went public, that was the biggest company which had taken their time to basically build a good product for searching. And right now, I think OpenAI, which I think Elon Musk was part of the founders among other investors, they have taken their time. And before they go public, I think one of the things which was worrying a lot of, let's say, consumers of, when I say ChatGPT in this context, I'll be meaning all other auto-generative text, right?
Yeah, large language models.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just couldn't match how efficient it is, I think. Because if you look at Google Bard, you get bored. It's like another version of Google because it gives you a lot of information which you probably do not need to know or have. The other one is, the one for Bing, Microsoft. I think that one integration in ChatGPT is much more efficient and reliable. And I've come to the sort of conclusion that AI is not really here to take jobs as people are preaching it, but it is more to make how you consume information much more efficient.
Yeah, in my experience, it has been quite efficient. For instance, if let's say I'm trying to do some research and analysis about a topic, normally or traditionally I would go search a topic on Google, and then I would peruse through a couple of websites trying to find the right information. But then with an AI chatbot, you're able to basically search or ask the AI about something. The AI will basically scan the internet, gather a lot of information, and then give me the most accurate information. And of course, if I need sources, to also bring me the sources of that information. So while the earlier versions of ChatGPT were full of errors, sometimes you'd get erratic information. I think it has really improved once we got to ChatGPT 4, 4.5, now headed to 5. I think there's much more improvements.
When was the last time you actually sort of wrote a whole page with your hand, some information?
I would say years ago, like that has to be over 5 years ago.
Yes. Try writing and see your handwriting. You'll know how bad it's like you never went to nursery school. That is what the internet and mobile phones and all these notepads have done. You're able to basically save a lot of information. Like AI is not just typing what you want to read and obviously getting information. There are things like Siri, Google Assistant, whereby they can sort of print or record audio and put it into text, which are some of the developments within the machine learning language.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think I was listening to one of the, I will have to find the name and share it with you, a podcast recently where I say that towards the end of 2021, you remember when NVIDIA was around $200 per share, $179. Nobody, those who are sharp enough would know, but few people were actually looking at as NVIDIA to be the leading stock in terms of returns and price appreciation in 2023.
I think since I was heavily covering NVIDIA that time, we were majorly focused on key developments in the market. One of them was a shortage of semiconductors. So that was driving the stock really high. At the same time, we had this boom in cryptocurrency markets. And these cryptocurrency markets were in high demand for miners, where NVIDIA would be supplying a majority of the chips. And of course, we had the expansion of cloud computing as a result of COVID. You know, when you have to work from home, the only way you collaborate with your other work colleagues, teammates, is through a data center. So there was a high demand for data centers, and NVIDIA was providing a majority of that market. So in that case, it was a strong bullish case, but nobody thought AI would come to explode this much and create so much demand for NVIDIA chips.
Now-
There was also the trend where there was a lot of adoption of EVs.
Yeah.
This is when Tesla was hitting record highs in car deliveries.
Yeah.
And of course, these EVs consume a lot of chips, and some of the chips would come from NVIDIA.
Now, another piece of, let's say, I think we were talking earlier whereby I was saying when there is a gold rush, those who make a lot of money are the ones who sell the shovels, right?
Definitely.
Now, besides this cloud and everything,
Yes.
This particular person was saying during that time there was a lot like companies involved in AI, let's say machine learning language, right?
Yes.
They were actually putting a big number of orders for specific NVIDIA chips.
Yes.
So people were not understanding. If you look at their order book,
Yes.
you wonder, why is this company ordering this?
Yeah.
Until this year, last night, that was on 21st, after the market closed, when we saw why
Yes.
people were putting this number of orders, because most of them were set to be delivered when? The last quarter.
Yes.
Whereby companies like OpenAI,
Yes.
of course, Tesla with Grok and XAI Corporation, Salesforce, who are expanding their cloud services. And what we found out is that the number of products NVIDIA is set to, let's say, deliver in the market is literally booked until Q3 2024.
Yes.
So if you look at a bullish case for NVIDIA or the Nasdaq in general, I think we still have some room for higher prices in the coming month or so.
Yeah. From the numbers that we saw yesterday after the reporting the Q3 earnings, it was quite impressive.
Yeah.
A lot of investors were betting that if, let's say, NVIDIA misses earnings, maybe we'll be getting a pullback in the Nasdaq or maybe even the S&P 500. But then the outperformance was quite solid. And this led to a lot of questions on whether the stock is overvalued, whether it will continue trending higher. And in this bullish case where a lot of investors are going in there for the FOMO, fear of missing out, the stock is up, currently 200 and it should be 248% year to date.
Yeah.
So everyone is feeling like, I missed the bus. But then if you try shorting, you burn your fingers. So the only way is up.
You remember when we spoke about there is some degree of suspicion about their numbers, yeah?
Yeah.
And what I've come to realize upon, looking at it, or rather observing it for the last 6 months, two things emerge quite clearly.
Yeah.
Number one, they have a very good and sustainable production timeframes.
Yes.
Their orders in terms of demand of their products is still quite high.
Yes.
And with the talk about AI now, they are the shovel sellers in this gold rush. Everyone
Definitely.
wants it. And I think the negative sentiment around it is for one purpose only.
Yes.
Back in 2011, thereabout, Bitcoin was trading at maybe below $1,000.
Yeah.
Right now it's at 36. Sometime last year it was at 60K.
Yeah.
So when it hits high, people are like, I missed that move.
Yes.
Now in that regard, I want it to go down before I buy again.
Yes.
So there is that sort of negative, and I wish I was in earlier.
Yeah.
So that is what I think a lot of the negative sentiments around NVIDIA is coming about, because this is literally their highest Q3 earnings of any tech company in the Magnificent Seven, which is actually doing good reports to investors.
Yes.
I think even Apple, despite their new product, investors within NVIDIA still are set to earn a lot from this, let's say for the year 2023.
Yeah, it's not every day that you have a stock doing 248%. So if you look at the revenue in the last quarter, it was up 205% from the previous quarter in 2022.
Yeah.
So when you have your revenue going triple, then that's some crazy numbers.
Yeah.
And this is all happening at the backstop of China banning, the US banning NVIDIA from selling products to China.
Yeah.
So some of their latest chips are not available for sale in China. And the overall result has been prices have doubled in China through the black market. Yeah. So since they cannot import using conventional ways, then they are finding the black market and the prices have just become more expensive. And despite cutting that market in China, they are still making crazy revenues. I remember we saw the Apple earnings showing some decline, and it was easily explainable because the Chinese government had banned state employees from using iPhones at work.
Interesting that you mentioned China. Recently, we saw Biden and Xi Jinping meeting recently. They still are there some tensions. It was a weird meeting because you expect heads of state meeting for Asia Pacific Conference on Economy to actually set aside their tariff difference and all this red taping and actually work together, because if the two world largest of economies agree on a proper trade agreement, that would mean two things: more jobs and revenue to US for NVIDIA and all its employees, and obviously American products, and raw materials from China coming at a lower cost, and therefore each one benefits. You get your revenue from exports, and your economy and your people grow. But anyway, politicians move the way they move.
Yeah, Biden literally called him a dictator right after he left.
Exactly.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But then I think we're beginning to see some fruits. If you were to speculate on that high topic that these two guys will be discussing, I think the Israel-Hamas would be
number one.
Number one on that list. Russia-Ukraine would be somewhere. But then, immediately after that meeting, what we have seen this week is Israel announcing a 4-day ceasefire.
Yeah.
And this is quite a deceleration.
Which is good, actually.
Yeah, compared to what we saw in Russia. After Russia invaded Ukraine, we didn't see a ceasefire for what? I don't think I've even heard of one. The war has just continued without a stop.
Yeah.
But then with this ceasefire, it feels like there's some form of negotiations going on. And maybe the situation in Israel will start cooling down. And of course, last night there was also a virtual emergency meeting by the OPEC, discussing the Israel-Hamas situation. So with these kind of international bodies having these meetings, I think at some point we'll be seeing some cooling off, and this will bring more confidence in the markets.
Yeah, definitely. Before we wrap up on AI and everything, of course, there has been talk of regulation. I think Musk is one of those who signed that open letter to sort of decelerate open AI, maybe thinking it would, interfere with not only security of people but also data privacy. And we had some allegations, I think, over the weekend of some of the reasons why maybe they were fired. Maybe there was a data breach or something like that. So there is that concern as well. Plus, in line with what I was saying earlier, whereby NVIDIA people wish they had gotten earlier. You see companies like Microsoft trying to make their own custom chips, Intel and the rest of this, let's say AMD. They are looking to get in there because NVIDIA was 10 years ahead of them in the game. So they're literally playing catch up. Do you feel like this year, rather this decade, I believe in the decade of 2010s, it was the product decade, whereby in the tech or the NASDAQ stock price appreciation, mostly tech-related products, iPhone was literally hitting sales numbers above the roof. I think AMD was doing great in gaming products. But this round, it is specific-oriented product companies like NVIDIA will be running the show. Maybe something like Salesforce with their adoption of artificial intelligence that allows those who adopt it to maybe generate better leads for their companies. And obviously, even in terms of hiring, the AI is able to sieve out things. So it will be more or less finite matters that will drive value generation within this decade, including Microsoft, which is literally through the roof with their proper investment in AI and in adoption of it into their cloud system.
Well, I think the last decade has been more of a software advancement. So AI is basically software. And if you look at the top 10 stocks in the US, you look at Apple, you look at Amazon, you look at Microsoft, they are all inclined to software. These guys are making
Tesla.
the majority of their revenues from software. Tesla, it's more hardware, but at some later stage, we'll see Tesla making more revenues from their software rather than hardware.
Yeah, because that's what I was looking at, maybe to prepare for the coming 6 years of this decade, to see which companies will be, getting you that good dividend earnings and the rest. Now, in regards to regulation, is there really a regulation that specifies how and adoption of such technologies?
Well, there was a group of scientists, leading CEOs, directors, and investors who basically wrote a letter to the US regulators asking them to regulate AI. So the key concern is what we call AGI, or artificial general intelligence, where it's assumed with the current pace that we are seeing, at some point we could reach a level where we have a very super intelligent AI that is able to do virtually any function that the humans can do, but in this case, better. And that has been a concern since the 50s, and there's a lot of theory about it.
Yeah.
So the existential threat to humanity could result to human extinction or even a irreversible global catastrophe.
Basically, you are saying Terminator, when was it, 1984, might be actualized.
Yes.
But I think for those who might want to read further on the existential crisis, maybe they might want to go and learn about the Turing test, which no AI or machine language so far has actually managed to pass the three, say the test to confirm that they can actually act as human.
Yes, the current issue, or the best, I would say, the best comparison I've seen is that we as humans, we've had this extended brain capacity, and that has given us power over other species within the planet. So if we were to exterminate any animal species, it would be insanely easy for us to do. So if we decided today we don't need mosquitoes, within a very short period of time, they'll be out. So the same case goes for AGI. If at some point, especially comparing how fast these companies are moving, if one of the AI models achieves AGI, or what sometimes is described as a singularity, then it would have insane capacity over humans. There's a lot of concerns of what the AI could do. And on one side, we know that we don't like have a common voice or a common practice as humans. Humans are as diverse as they get. So we have good players, bad players, and so on.
I think part of the test is normally three. Of course, intellectual capacity, meaning how you can think and process information. Emotional ability to react and deal with any emerging issue emotionally or psychologically. And then number three, of course, speaking, whereby you have your voice that you can speak. I think the closest we have had to that is a Siri and Google Assistant, which, of course, if you put them in a robot now, maybe they can act as human beings.
Right. I think they are more advanced AIs. For instance, we saw the AI model presented by Tesla.
But that is literally a big, bulky robot.
You
want something that, is not above 250 kgs. Something lean and has the ability to speak in a way that and react to issues. You see, when you are speaking to maybe your Google Assistant, it is able to sort of do things for you, plan for you, and still remind you.
There are AIs that are currently making payments. So it means that if at any point one AI goes rogue, it could hack people, hack the financial system, pay people to do stuff for it. Like if it's super intelligent, then it could find like almost unlimited ways of exploiting human beings.
Interesting. This seems like a week of CEOs getting fired or indicted or something like that. Binance. CZ. CZ. I think it was yesterday, that would be 21st of November, whereby Binance settled for, was it $4 billion for money laundering and other charges. And part of the conditions for that settlement was that he step down and appoint another CEO as interim and remain maybe in the capacity of advisory until maybe the company is off to a different path.
I've been seeing varying data. For context, CEO is Changpeng Zhao, the founder and former CEO of Binance. And Binance is the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. And within its 5 years of tenure, it has grown into a multi-billion-dollar company. And so far, it has been operating in different countries. They had a branch in the US and other countries. They had different licenses across multiple jurisdictions. This has helped them achieve, I would say, scaling to a global level. So with this growth and expansion, I think the biggest challenge that they had was doing a KYC or know your customer process. So having a global audience, it's very difficult to manage all that data. And sometimes you can have bad players acting on your platform. So there was an investigation from the Binance US that basically led to the DOJ or the Department of Justice in the US highlighting several, I would say, illegalities allegedly that had happened with Binance.
If they have settled, it means they are not allegedly. They were done.
Yes,
right?
they were done, yes. So it's basically meaning that terrorists were able to transact using the Binance platform.
Yeah.
There is also the issue of money laundering that was conducted on the platform. And upon seeing the evidence, the CEO decided to accept, resign from the CEO post. And of course, he was also facing personal charges. And those personal charges also applied to some of the top executives at Binance. And now he's going to start a big, long case. And we don't know how this will end.
Interesting. I think we started with FTX. That was it this year? Or last year?
Last year.
Wow. There has been a lot of things happening. It's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
I think it started with the FTX collapse, and the guy, I think, is set for sentencing, right?
He has already been sentenced.
So he sentenced some bank freed. By the way, that is 100 years, full lifetime.
Yes.
We went to Coinbase. Brian Armstrong has been really sued. I think he has a case ongoing with the SEC and Gary Gensler.
Yeah.
And Binance, I think it was coming. If you have been following chatters on X, everyone was like, move your Bitcoin away or, don't be full overweight in terms of risk in there.
Yeah, Kraken is also on the list.
By the way, yes.
It's under investigation and they could be facing something similar with what Binance is going through.
Yes. You see, this is more or less like new money in the finance or fintech industry.
Yeah.
Is it that maybe the regulators have let them grow big enough and have identified the weakness, and therefore they are looking for ways in which they can reinforce them into the proper capital markets regulations and set, let's say, rules and guidance of practice?
Well, I would say in most cases, especially in tech, the regulator is usually lagging. So if there's a new tech development or advancement or market and it's thriving, if the regulator comes in too early, they basically limit innovation in that space and kill the industry before it goes anywhere. Yeah. But then if you let it keep going, then the idea is usually to have this cross interaction between the regulator and the top players or the market leaders, so that they can understand the product and the tech and implement the right laws. So CZ and other major exchanges have been avoiding regulation because they knew that it would hit them hard. There is a high chance they would be found guilty of something and then it would blow up.
Okay.
So they've been operating in different jurisdictions that have less regulations in order to, let's say, perform illegalities, price manipulation, and all that.
Yeah. Interesting. You see, why I mentioned that is because I think we have seen Bitcoin rather as a currency grow so huge. I'm sure if we are able to pull out data from most of the banks globally, there are trillions of dollars literally moving from the mainstream markets or economies to this new virtual gold coin.
Yes.
And I think that for the last 1 year, we have had charters of companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and other, hedge fund managers talking about listing an ETF that is tracking the crypto industry, and particularly maybe Bitcoin ETF, Ethereum ETF, and they have invested personally or as a firm significant portions, including Tesla at some point, allowing purchase of their products in Dogecoin and others.
Yes.
Maybe is it that I still believe there is a fencing which is going on, but also maybe they are trying to dislodge the top players so that once that goes live, the theory of Bitcoin itself as decentralized exchange becomes a centralization of the finance industry.
Well, I would say in terms of new tech adoption, institutions are quite skeptical of new technology because every time there's a new, I would say, new tech that has broken out, there's a lot of marketing, a lot of news and commentary, but you don't have the data to back it up. So Bitcoin having survived the first 10 years from 2009 to 2019, there was sufficient data now to build a case on whether this is the right asset to be using as a, let's say, safe haven asset or anti-inflation, anti-central bank asset or I'd say counterparty risk.
Yeah.
So that provided sufficient data for these banks and other large financial institutions to do analysis and decide that this is solid, it's something you can invest in. So besides that, I think a lot of exchanges, investors being there or not, they've had a lot of things that they did illegally. And some of these includes issuing tokens, which can be deemed as securities since they don't pass what we call the Howey test. So the Howey test is a test that is usually used in the US to identify whether something qualifies as an investment contract. So if it's an investment contract and you are issuing securities, then you should go through the proper regulation from the Securities and Exchange Commission, get licensed, offer, I would say, transparency, and of course the investor protections that are there in traditional markets. So if you're not offering all that and you are operating behind regulation, then regulation catches up with you, then we can't blame investors.
Especially
so we can say investors are cracking down on these exchanges. They were actually dying by themselves, like what happened to FTX. It died by itself out of basically risking customers' funds outside regulation. So in this case, they are looking to make sure, and I'm talking about the regulators in the US, they're looking to make sure there is proper regulation so that when they allow banks to have a spot Bitcoin exchange, then the investors who go into that product will be properly protected.
And they are also clearly aware of the scope that the risk they'll face in it.
Yes, they've been studying it for some good time. So I believe at this point they understand the asset and they are trying to bring in the right environment.
Personally, I think there has been talks of reviving FTX.
Yes.
And obviously because there are still some funds which were seized during the court cases, maybe proper management, proper corporate governance implemented can be good, because I think innovation and within the fintech is usually a good thing because it allows you to find alternative investment class and more innovation within the, be it blockchain or other technologies that can add value to humanity in general. So maybe it will be an interesting year in 2024 with, of course, already JFK talking about adoption of crypto. I think there is Ron DeSantis as well. We have recently seen Rishi Sunak had a meeting with Musk, maybe on AI adoption and everything around it, including safety. So I think that can be something to watch out for as we wrap up the year and see 2024.
Yes, there's also the issue of the new Argentinian president.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's completely pro-Bitcoin. He has promised to abolish the central bank and get Argentina back on the dollar currency. So in this case, with Argentinians using the dollar, it will be easy to transition to Bitcoin. And of course, we could be seeing a lot of investors flying to Argentina to offer, let's say, policy advice that might be accommodative for investors to now start venturing in Argentina.
Interesting. It will be an interest. I think, remember when I asked you about Santarali? I think based on what is happening on gold at $2,000 now, we might be having it based on all the good news. All the tech Magnificent Seven literally hit their earnings calls. The dollar is significantly weakening. Oil is still, demand is still high. So I don't believe there'll be much risk on that. And the inflation is coming down. So
yesterday I saw a couple of insider reports. And a lot of insiders are now beginning to sell the top. So there's guys who are employed, executives at NVIDIA, who are selling at the current prices. So they feel like the price has reached the top. They have started selling. But of course, that might start cracking on the confidence of investors who have been buying throughout the year.
You never know. Roaring Kitty might still be active. So, as they short it out, somebody else will be pumping it up.
I also saw AMC holding a multi-year low. There was a big sell-off throughout the year. And I think the stock is now literally very cheap.
Yeah.
That's AMC Entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a good chance we'll be seeing out of rotation to stocks that have gone to really undervalued levels.
Yeah.
But then for a stock that is 230, 240, 250% up year to date, and there's only I think 39 days to the end of the year, I don't think that it would be the best idea to go for such stocks.
Okay.
Last time we saw that happening was 2021. So 2021, we had Zoom, we had Pfizer, there was Moderna,
J&J.
J&J. They were quite. Tesla was also up there, and they had some good stellar performance.
Yeah.
But then towards the end of the year, I think it was the last month of the year, they started falling sharply. And then the following year, it was all bearish year. 2022 now would be the year we had this bearish momentum on the Nasdaq, SP 500, and most of the tech companies were down. They came to recover towards the end.
I have a different theory on the stocks which were very active in 2021.
Yeah.
I think they were still hanging on to the hangover of COVID. They benefited from COVID because people were using a lot of tech during that time.
Yeah.
People there was that anticipation that with the drugs they'll make a lot of sale.
Yes.
But what they did not factor in is most of these drugs will be bought by governments.
Yes.
And governments don't buy at profits.
Yes.
They buy at marginal price to achieve the greater good.
Yes.
So when the reports came in, investors were like, hey, no.
Yeah. This is not
what we're expecting. So thank you very much. We'll be going back to what we normally do us.
Yes.
And what is it that you say about Wall Street? It is illogical, irrational.
Yes.
They only see the dollars and green signs and blue percentages at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's all about the bottom line.
Yes. So I think for me, next year will be quite interesting for those who have been listening. I hope you have learned one or two things. One thing I'm happy about is that the strike in Hollywood is over.
Yes.
So we are out of having AI write for us shows.
Yeah, and we could be having some great Christmas movies.
Yeah, definitely. I think AI writing of movies is not up there yet. So at least there is something I know script writers will do. Yeah. So quite exciting month, and obviously hope you are having a wonderful day ahead, unless you have one word of advice or,
Well, as we approach the end of today's episode, I think it's important to highlight that we have just recently hit 1 million people in terms of financial literacy education. So that's a big plus for FX Pesa.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we are looking forward to a happy 2024. So we'll be looking to close majority of our education projects around 20th.
Yeah.
So that we take on a break for the end of the year. So we'll be preparing some good evergreen content available for you in December. So even if we close, we'll still have some good content for you.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to register for an account, make sure that you check the links below. Feel free to share the podcast, share your responses, and we'll be happy to respond to that.